Did they really need that last field goal? Did they really need that last field goal?
They had to.
Come on, man. Come on. I'm trying to make the people some money.
What was it, 8.5 going in?
8.5.
8.5. ESPN bet the last field goal makes it 11 points. Those who bet Ohio State win.
That is a bad beat.
Yep.
That is a bad beat.
They really, okay, they had no choice. They had to do something in that spot because there was too much time left on the clock. But yes, congratulations to Ohio State. Up 31-7. The Notre Dame first drive was one of the greatest drives I think I've ever seen in my life. An 18-play, 75-yard, 9-minute and 45-second drive. But it took so much out of Notre Dame, it felt like. And then Ohio State, after that, scores on its next 5 possessions, including 4 touchdowns and then a field goal to go all the way up 31-7. Notre Dame comes all the way back. They're down 31-15. Some weird decision-making by Marcus Freeman. I don't know why he kicked a field goal down 16 with 9+ minutes to go versus going for it on a 4th and goal from the 9. And then on that last drive, or one of the last drives, they cut it to 31-23. It's 3rd and 11. Ohio State has a ball from their own 34-yard line. And Will Howard, who had a great game and I think made himself some money last night in terms of the draft, may have gone from whatever round you thought he was, up a round, maybe 5th to 4th, 4th to 3rd, something like that. Hits Jeremiah Smith for 56 yards down to the Notre Dame 10. Ball game over. Hell of a performance by Ohio State last night.
It was. And if you go back to November 30th when they lost 13-10 to Michigan, we maybe couldn't have foreseen this. For a lot of programs, and a loss to your rival at that point in the season that was very emotional, especially with the scuffle after all of that, with the planting of the flag, a lot of people that could have derailed their season. But for Ohio State, for Ryan Day to get this group of young men to have their focus locked in, be able to turn the page from that, use it as fuel moving forward. I think a lot of people owe Ryan Day an apology today.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And the beauty of having a 12-team playoff format is that you have a longer road to toe, and it reveals the true character of the guys that you have in the locker room, the character of all of the people in football ops in the building. So I just think that for both of these teams, you had an opportunity to see the chemistry, the camaraderie, and how that comes to the forefront in terms of being able to get them to this point. And credit to Ohio State, because after being so invested in trying to best Michigan and get that elusive win over that program, they found a way to refocus. They found a way to get off the map after a lackluster performance and losing in the horseshoe, and being able to go on this run where they absolutely dominated everybody. They only trailed for 6 minutes and 5 seconds the entire playoff, and all of that came last night. That all came last night.
On the first drive.
That's it.
Yeah. I was thinking, I was like, wait, when was that? I forgot. The first drive that I just talked about.
That was the only time they trailed the entire playoff.
So during their first possession, reacting to that big drive, during that scoring drive, the time that they spent driving downfield was their only deficit.
Correct.
That's what you call dominant, ladies and gentlemen.
No doubt about it. But again, you wouldn't have been able to predict this based on the last regular season game we got from Ohio State. That's why you got to give credit to all of those players in that locker room, and specifically the guys on the defensive side of the ball, because they are unheralded when it comes to this championship run. I mean, you got 9 upperclassmen on that side of the ball, and those guys do a phenomenal job of not only flying around and setting the tone, but being able to carry the flag when it comes to leadership for this football team. And to me, that was impressive. After giving up that long drive, they put the clamps on that Notre Dame offense, and that was what allowed Ohio State to have that huge second quarter where they scored 21 unanswered points.
Also, back-to-back Big Ten champs. Michigan last year, Ohio State this year. Interesting. Changing of the guard a little bit.
Oh, okay. As long as you're going there, I was about to go crazy.
What?
As an Illinois fan, you can't be happy with Ohio State and Michigan winning.
Well, we always talk about defaulting to the SEC. And now we have back-to-back Big Ten champions.
Very fair.
Yeah, that's all I was getting. I'm not claiming it because I went to Illinois.
I don't know.
Please, I was surprised you didn't drop it on Wisconsin already. Somehow.
I'm not the Packers fan that roots for the Lions until they lost.
No, you're the person who will cheer for another team based on whoever moves there.
Anyway, your Packers your Packers played a huge role in this game last night. I'm dead serious. Think about the trickle down. If the Green Bay Packers don't hire Jeff Hafley as their defensive coordinator from BC, Bill O'Brien, who's excellent, was the offensive coordinator for about 10 minutes at Ohio State. When BC opened, they hired Bill O'Brien from Ohio State. Chip Kelly's like, you know what? I'm going to go back with Ryan Day, one of my players. Chip Kelly's play calling last night was phenomenal. We're going to talk about Ben Johnson as the head coach of the Bears. We talk about that play over the weekend with the Lions. But Chip Kelly does those innovative things as well. Ryan Day calls his old mentor, gets him out of UCLA, says, I need you back with me as the coordinator. And that was a huge help for him last night. And then all trickle down happened with Smalls' Packers hiring Hafley. Day, 70-10. 70-10 as a college coach with a national championship, had this to say about his team last night.
These guys, learned a bunch of life lessons, but they're going to go down in Ohio State history as some of one of the greatest teams to ever play at Ohio State. After all the things that have been said throughout the year, these guys are going to be cemented as one of the best stories in Ohio State history and one of the best football teams ever. Only 9 teams have ever done it, and 3 in over 50 years. These guys right here. And there was a point where not a lot of people had that vision, but these guys did, and they saw it through. And Ohio State may not be for everybody, but it's for these guys, and I'm really proud of them.
All right, there's a couple of interesting things off of this. The Michigan game did not matter.
I think it did matter, actually.
For positive?
It did matter.
In a positive way. It was a negative outcome that yielded a positive result.
Okay, so then the follow-up on that, because I agree, that's a great point. Are the rivalries then dead if the loss helps more than the win?
No, I don't think so at all. That rivalry is still alive and well. Maybe
It's actually, if anything, it's spicier.
because they both won back-to-back now?
Back-to-back national champions.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, to me, that makes it even more intriguing, right? Because it shows you how good these teams are, how competitive these programs are, and when they have a chance to meet up, you're talking about that being an indicator in terms of who we think can win the national title.
Yeah.
So, I think that game, it's not as important in terms of, being an elimination game for national contention. And I think that's what Evan is talking about.
Correct.
But in terms of the level of importance, because of how prominent these two programs are, I think it's alive and well. If nothing, it's even more elevated. So, I'm impressed by what Ohio State was able to do. This is a supremely talented team. We knew that coming in. They got a $20 million roster with all of the NIL that they're paying all of those guys. And I think what we're going to start learning with this new playoff format is that with the more games that you have to play, eventually the law of averages is going to take over, and the teams that have the better players are going to have a decided advantage, right? Because last night it became obvious to me when we got into the middle quarters of that game that Ohio State had more talent on the field than Notre Dame. Ohio State had more speed on the field than Notre Dame. And so I think that's going to be one of the things that we have to acknowledge when it comes to, the teams that have the requisite depth that it takes in order to go on a deep playoff run.
I mentioned this is Ohio State's first championship since 2014, which is not that long of a time, obviously, but it's Ohio State. They won the first 14 playoff. They won the first 12-team playoff. Is this the most legitimate national championship? Not to say the other ones were not legitimate, but there's more games to be played.